Welcome to the Business Building Blocks podcast, where we talk about struggles and celebrations that leaders and entrepreneurs experience on their journey to success. I'm your host, Christina, and I'm passionate about helping you achieve massive amounts of success at work and at home. We'll talk about all things people and organizational wellness, share relatable stories, and feature insightful guests because quality people and processes are at the heart of every success story. Ready to learn, grow, and have fun? Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to the Business Building Blocks podcast. I'm your host, Christina Schmidt. Today, I am so excited about our guest. So as you've known, as I just said, I do a lot of speaking, but I use a lot of funny filler words. And it's something that a lot of us do. A lot of us use our filler words. We have our little idiosyncrasies that we do when we speak. But that can have a big impact on our impact as leaders, entrepreneurs, just people on teams trying to get our point across. So today our guest is Emanuela Hall. She is a Catholic speaking coach. So she is going to share with us some things that we can do to improve our speaking, get over some of our fears around it, and really just help us get to be better speakers and so that we can share our message better. So I'm going to bring her on now. Welcome, Emanuela.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So happy to have you on here. Why don't you kick us off with just telling us a little bit about yourself and about your business?
Sure. So as you mentioned, I'm a speaking coach and story consultant, and I help mostly entrepreneurs, mostly coaches, to tell their story, to speak with authority, and to ultimately be able to captivate their audiences so that they can go on and get more visible in their business, grow their mission, make more impact. Back in 2019, I wrote and performed my own one-woman play. And because I'm a theater major, like I went to New York City, studied theater there, and had been working, I had my own business since 2013, but I was running in-person drama and music workshops for older adults. In 2019, I wrote and performed my one-woman play. And then in 2020, I was like, I want to transition my business online. But I didn't know what that looked like because my skill set was in drama and music and dance. I'm like, how do we do this in a virtual way? I decided I was going to help moms for a little while to express themselves creatively because my play was really about becoming a mother. And it was actually called My Breast Self. So it was all about challenges with new motherhood. But what I found within the first 6 months of being online, and I had joined a mastermind, was that all these entrepreneurs and people who just suddenly had to be on Zoom were asking me, like, how do I do that? How do I speak on camera? And with my years of acting training, I studied voice and speech and delivery. And I kind of created a little workshop and everybody loved it. And it was that light bulb moment that this is a skill set that people don't just have as entrepreneurs, right? Like we're good at our thing. It's like when you have to learn you can be good at making rosaries, but you might not be good at selling, or you might not be good at creating a website, or you might, right? But all of those things go into becoming an entrepreneur. So coaches, especially who want to get out there and market themselves and want to really make an impact and be on stages, but even leaders within organizations who now have to be on Zoom or have to go make a keynote. These are skills that performers, we kind of take for granted. It's like, well, I've always kind of done it, and now I have the knowledge and the skills. And that's what led me into starting a speaking coaching business in 2020. And here we are. And I'm getting over a cold. So if my voice sounds funny, that's why.
All right, no worries. You still sound wonderful.
Yeah.
So awesome. I did actually watch your one-woman play. And oh my goodness, I loved it. It's like you got into my brain about when I first became a mom. So it was quite interesting. So if nobody has watched, if people haven't seen that yet, then I recommend going and checking that out. Because
I'm so touched that you watched it. Thank you.
Yeah, I actually watched it quite a while ago. I saw it on your link tree and I was like, oh, that's super interesting. And it was good. I was like, oh my goodness. Yes, about the fears about.
Yeah. I debated putting it out on YouTube for a while because it's like, well, what if I perform it again? I don't want to just have it. But, as an artist, I'm in a different season now and my conversion happened after that play, and I just see things differently, and I don't think I would perform it again. So it's there. I hope it touches people who need it, but maybe I'll write a different play next time.
Yes, that would be interesting. I love that your creativeness, I think it comes out in what you do and how you help people as well. So I think that's amazing. So great. So you have so many talents and you went into a lot of them, and so acting and music. So how do you bring that into helping people with speaking?
I I get people out of their comfort zones, and they don't like it at first. I always warn my clients, like, we're going to do some weird stuff. I hope you're okay with that. Like, if you never took drama camp or went to the theater camp as a kid, you're going to be like, what is happening? But a lot of people, usually people that are drawn to me because they do have a bit of that in them too. And they're like, oh, I did this in high school and I forgot how fun it is. I also have run networking workshops that I call the icebreaker, and I just include a bunch of drama games. Because when we get outside of our usual headspace, get outside of our comfort zone, do something creative, do something we don't do all the time, we can grow that muscle of like being able to laugh at yourself. And especially in a corporate setting or where you're with your coworkers, you don't get a lot of that connection in a different way. You
Mhm.
connect for your work, but to be able to just let loose and explore different facets of your personality. So I do a lot of that. I ask people to like get up, even if it's virtual, we'll get up, we won't be sitting, we'll move our bodies. I always start in the body. I used to be a yoga instructor. So
Okay.
that taught me a lot about our mind body connection, and a lot of that energy, a lot of those fears people think they have are really just like trapped emotions in our body. So we work with the body, we work with the breath. I will get people to sing if I think it's going to help them open up their voice. And then story writing is creative, right? Like
All
anyone
right.
can just say words, but can
Mhm.
speak it in a way that is going to bring out your personality and also connect to the people that you're talking to.
Mhm. Oh, that's great. That's awesome. I think it's so powerful to be able to just get out of, if you say, I'm just going to practice speeches, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But when you can stretch into their creativeness and make them go, if you have to like be here for speaking, if you make them go over here when they're practicing and then they can bring it back, that seems easy after you've stretched them this far, which is amazing.
Yeah, and so I bring the acting perspective, and that's why I call myself not your typical speaking coach, because I don't wear blazers and I'm not just like giving, I don't have slides usually, but I have a client right now and she doesn't use her mouth very much. Like when she talks, her mouth is very closed and it's very quiet.
Ah.
I said, as an exercise, over articulate, like be really dramatic. And she was like, that is just so unnatural. Why would I do that? And I said, just as an exercise. But in
Mhm.
fact, what she thought was over the top was actually just bringing it to like the medium, you know?
Mhm.
And maybe it's stretching you, and eventually it's going to feel more natural. But when we open up our mouth more, our words come out better, we can hear you better, and your face gets more expressive. So a lot of people talk with a lot of jaw tension and don't move their mouth at all. If you're watching this,
Mhm.
you can see how suddenly I'm just talking like this and I'm not really making a lot of
Yeah.
expression, right? So
Yeah.
I told
Yeah.
her, like I said, everything's just an exercise. Let's just explore. Let's just have fun and see where it goes and see how it feels. And even if it's just for practice and you take it back, it's easier to take
Mhm.
it back once you've gone to the extreme. And we would do that in theater all the time. Like play this scene, as an angry witch. And if you just take it to the extreme, then when you come back, you bring some elements of that.
Oh, absolutely. I know in high school, I was a cheerleader and we had to do these facials. It was all about like how crazy you can make your face. And so many of us, we would struggle with, do I look like a crazy lunatic right now? But that was a big part of it. Like look like a crazy lunatic a little bit because from far away, you need to. And it was just about that practicing, getting the reps in, going a little bit over the top so you can bring it back in. So that's really cool. So let's talk a little bit about the fear of speaking that people have. So why do you think like it's crippling for some people? So why do you think people get so cripplingly scared about public speaking?
Such a good question. It is crippling. First, I want to say that the statistic is, I believe, 77% of Americans suffer from glossophobia, which is the technical term for the fear of public speaking. So if that is you, I just like to throw that out there because like it's a lot of people. You are not a crazy person. Like, why can't I do this? I think when we add that element of shame and guilt and like, I should be able to because I'm a leader and I need to be able to do this, like just get rid of all that because that's not helping anybody. So people have this fear. It's very normal. I believe that it's like every kind of trauma starts at a very young age. I go through a book. It's called The Right to Speak by Patsy Rosenberg, and it was a required reading for my theater program. But she talks about, I believe it's 8 speaking blocks. And these blocks can be like physical things that we do, physical habits. But a lot of these blocks come from the messages we received as kids on how to use our voices and how we saw other people. So just like kids learn everything from their environment, we learn how to use our voice from our environment. The voice that we came out of the womb screaming and crying with is usually not the voice that we are using as adults. Usually it has been suppressed, or it has been, again, it depends on a lot of factors: your gender, your race, your culture, your demographic, the career you choose. I joke when I was a yoga teacher, I used to put on my yoga voice and talk like that. And as teenagers, right? Teenagers pick up different things because they want to fit in with their peers. So people sometimes think speaking coaching means like changing your voice or learning how to use a different voice. And it actually is like peeling back the onion. Let's take off all that stuff and let's come to the essence of your God-given voice and how you want it to sound and how you want it to feel, what feels right for you, not the way your mom spoke, not the way your dad told you you should or shouldn't speak, right? And a lot of those things. There's also sometimes a significant event that happens, an event where you had to do it and you were not well received. And so your body keeps the score. And biologically, you now see that as a threat, as a conflict. If you got up on stage once when you were 7 years old and everybody laughed at you, or you fell, or you forgot all your lines, we remember that. Even if we thought, no, I know what I'm doing, I'm safe now. One little thing, we remember. We know this even as sinners, we focus on like that one sin we did instead of seeing all the beautiful things we do. We always focus. So same with public speaking. If we went up 10 times and we're awesome, we will remember that one time where something went wrong. It literally blocks us. So I believe there's mindset work that has to go into it, but which I do work on with my clients, but I also love working on building the skills, because if we have the skill set, then when things go wrong that are out of our control, like the tech doesn't work or somebody barges into our talk, we have the skill set to keep going. How do you think theater actors on Broadway can continue doing the same lines over and over and over every single night and still evoke the same emotions from their audiences? Skills. They're not letting their day, how they feel, if their pet is sick, to influence their job. Right? You have a job to do, you show up, you do it regardless of all that other stuff. I think I answered like 3 questions in one there.
I was loving listening to it because in the leadership training that I do, I get into our blocks for leading. And it is about the wounds, like our childhood wounds, our childhood locked in traumatic events, or even just lacking of love sort of events. But all of these things get in the way of our ability to lead, in the same way they're going to get in the way of our ability to speak as well. I know as a child, I could get up and act like a fool in front of a bunch of people, but I could not speak my own thoughts. And I think that was a childhood trauma around what you say is dumb, what you say is not important, what you say is, and so those childhood traumas impacted me for a big chunk of my life. And I still see it. I still hear it. It's like, maybe that's not a great idea. Maybe I should keep to myself. So it's so interesting how much our childhood impacts everything we do.
Right? Everything. And now as parents, I'm like so cognizant of this, like, oh, don't download my own things on them. Like, It's hard to do, to break those generational. I often feel my voice goes back into how my mom spoke. We're Italian, we're very animated, we're very loud, but it's like a very chesty kind of aggressive talk. Like it's very,
Yeah.
and I can feel that when I start getting upset with my kids, that comes out. But it's the awareness is key, right? It's like when we talk about filler words, we're never going to be 100% perfect. And that's
Mhm.
not the goal. It's to be aware and then try to choose differently.
Yes. No, that's great. And that's same thing with wounds, same thing with any kind of behavior change, which learning to speak is a behavior change again. And you've got to move that needle slowly, one little stretch at a time, and just keep working at it. It's practice.
Totally. Yeah.
Totally. Yes. So you mentioned your reversion back to the Catholic faith. So how has that impacted you as a business owner, and then you as how you help your clients, how you interact with them?
It was kind of, I had to come to a full stop, to be honest. I started this business, like I said, in 2020. And up until about 2022, I just kept I started having my reversion and starting to see the world differently.
Mhm.
But all I saw in the coaching industry was a secular world. I didn't know it existed. I didn't know there was Christian and Catholic coaches out there, or business mentors, or website designers. I just thought they're either hiding it or they're secular, because all
Yeah.
the business coaches I worked with were very much like manifest and, vision boards and crystals. I actually had one coach who was very helpful for me. Like, I had one of my biggest months in business with her, but then I realized that she was a witch. Like, she was straight up not hiding it, but in this, this slow new age term of,
Mhm.
start to see them burning incense and the words that they're saying. I'm like, oh, I can never hire her again. Like, I can't,
Yeah.
because there's a conflict with my values. So I was having this struggle for real. I was going to all my business coaches, like, do I say that I'm Christian? Do I say, I don't know? And divine intervention, sorry. I actually got my account on Instagram hacked.
Oh.
I didn't have a website, so my account got hacked and I had to start over. So my account that had like 2,000 followers, which was big for me. I felt like that was a lot of people. Maybe
Yeah.
not the most ideal clients. I had to start over. And I was like, at first, obviously, very upset. And then was like, this is my permission to start fresh and come out as a
Mhm.
Catholic Christian coach. And I did that. And there was a lot of navigating. Then I started working with Catholic coaches and was like, okay, this is possible. I can do this. I can have a business and I can be openly Catholic. So for me, I have discerned, I have prayed on it a lot, whether I actually brand myself as a Catholic coach. But when it comes down to it, the stuff I work on with my clients isn't inherently Catholic. So
Mhm.
we write your story, we do body work, breath work, voice work, mindset work. It's not, I can teach it to anybody, these skills.
Mhm. Yep.
I am more outwardly Catholic in my marketing. So I talk about the Holy Spirit, I talk about God. I show stuff that I'm at church, or, so I am
Mhm.
openly Catholic. This way I'm not attracting people who are against it. If you want to work with me and you're not Catholic or Christian, that's totally fine, as long as I'm not helping you promote a message that is counter mine. I did have an experience
Yes.
when I wasn't clear, and this was God telling me, like, you need to draw a line in the sand. I did have a woman. We had a great sales call. She was very eager, very excited. First session together, she says, oh, there was just something she didn't like. And I started realizing she was telling me that she was a shape shifter. So she has different, like, she believes she's from different planets. And
Oh.
anyways, I don't know what that means, but I was very much like, I don't feel like this is a good fit. That was just
Yeah.
an,
Yeah.
it gave me this like nervous anxiousness. as soon as I hired her. And as soon as I let her go, I gave her her money back, even for our session, because I just didn't want to energetically like have anything there. Like, you know what? We both mutually were like, this is not a good fit. And since then, Christina, I have only had dream clients. Like, they actually say they chose me because of my faith. Because honestly, there are so many speaking coaches, just like there are so many leadership coaches and business coaches. So how do we pick? Of course, your personality, your story. But if I can connect with you on faith, I know that when I get in a room with you, when you start coaching me, you're not going to tell me to pull some tarot cards or whatever. You know, you're going to understand if I'm having trouble making a decision. You might say to me, take it to adoration, or, you know, open up a certain passage in the Bible. And that is so helpful because we are integrated human beings. Like, to have my faith over here, my business over here, because my business, it's like our little babies. It's like, it's a piece of us. It has to be integrated into that. So it's a journey of navigating how to do this. And definitely when you put your faith on display, you're going to have people who think that's, I had someone who was following me for a while, and she was not of the faith and actually was kind of like offended and didn't know why I would niche down, that I was being offensive to people who weren't that faith. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just letting you know who I am. Right.
Yeah.
And we want to attract our ideal client. And my ideal client, she's working to grow the kingdom. She is working to spread the word of God, and in whatever capacity, whether that's like her body knowledge of how our bodies work, or how to make money, or how to fix our mindset, but all for the greater glory.
Yes. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. I've had some similar experiences because as a leadership coach, I have primarily worked in the secular. So I teach leadership, facilitate leadership programs, that sort of thing. But it's to organizations, it's large organizations, and I don't talk about God. But when I was with a franchise, but when I started just working with myself, I put that I'm Catholic, and that's influenced my business, and that's, and I started with that. And so I would put it up. I'd tell people at the beginning of sessions, whether it was in an organization or not, it's just who I am. That's me. And it did start to bring in it's just different clientele. And then I've just launched a Catholic leader program. So it's not, I don't just serve Catholics necessarily, but I just launched it where I can now incorporate that faith into how we grow and how we heal wounds and whatnot. And it has been amazing to be able to help people be holistic in their growth. And that's such a big part. But that whole part about attracting ideal clients, that is amazing. So I love that you're experiencing the same thing.
And the other fun thing is, like, we can pray on a coaching call. Because when I first experienced having a coach who was Catholic, I was like, oh, it just felt so safe, like there's no barriers here for us. And I'm sure people who do not have the faith feel the same way of hiring someone who shares their faith. Like, we all just want to feel like safe and supported. And so if that bit of information is going to help your clients, and I have thought of potentially doing a program, doing the same thing, Christina, like having one that's like for Catholic speaking coaches, so bring in like the Holy Spirit gave us our voices. That's the sort of the piece that isn't in my program, but I kind of infuse it throughout. Yeah.
I think there's ways to hit it all. And I know in my Catholic leader program, I have non-Catholics. I just said, we're going to do some Catholic things, just be aware. And they're open to it. But we also have the conversation because as Catholics, we work in secular places, and it's our job to still separate ourselves as Christians and as Catholics to, to live our values, live our virtues, and live within a very secular world that way as well. And so we talk about, okay, how does this translate to a secular environment? Like, it's not, okay, I'm not the top dog, I can't implement this as, I can't talk about the Holy Spirit coming in and speaking through us, but, we talk about, okay, but you should be still doing one-on-one coaching. You can start digging into those one-on-one things. And if you have one of your employees who's Catholic and you get to that point, then fantastic. I know I did as a leader, I offered to pray with somebody. They said, no, I don't want to do that. But I offered, I was like, hey, do you want to? And he was like, no. I was like, okay.
Good for you for being bold. Yeah.
Oh, those were not easy, but sometimes that stretching, doing the hard is good.
Totally. And I even sometimes am like, if I have a non-Catholic Christian and I do the sign of the cross, like, should I not do the sign of the cross? Like, it's so silly because usually they're just like, hey, we're all praying. We're praying. It's fine.
Do you? They'll do them. Maybe that's not the best way to say it, but do your faith, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, well, that's awesome. So let's just touch quickly. We talked about the people that totally fear speaking. Now, what about those people that are a little bit like me? We do a lot of speaking, but we probably could use some tweaks. What advice would you give those people?
The biggest thing I see is people focusing so much on their content and not on themselves and their delivery.
Okay, good.
Of course, we don't want to put out poop. We don't want to put out stuff that is not good. We want our content to be good. We want our story to be good. But then we're not practicing how to say it. It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
True.
That's why in the Captivating Speakers Academy, I walk people through first our body. What is our body language? How's our physicality? What about our gestures? Are we gesturing too much and it's all hands? Are we not gesturing at all? Are we expressive, like I talked about with our face? Is our posture inviting? Then we do breath work because our breath supports our voices. And also it helps calm your nervous system. It helps you say words longer without having to breathe. Have you ever seen like a nervous talker who is kind of like, I've seen videos where people are demonstrating things and they're just that shallow breath and you can sense their nervousness and it makes you nervous. And now you're like nervous for them. Maybe it's just me, but I notice that a lot. And then how to actually sound the way you want to sound. So we talked a little bit about that, but I teach how to find your resonating tone. So your resonating tone is that tone within a certain range where your voice is going to resonate the most. Your audience is going to feel, when you're at a concert, even at a church and the organ is playing and you feel like the vibrato, the neck hairs standing up, you get chills down your spine. Like when the notes we feel things when we hear music and our voices are melodies. Do you have a monotone? Are you speaking way too low in your register? Are you speaking like nasally or really, really high? So those are kind of the nuances that people who say, I'm fine at speaking. Sure, you're confident. Are you competent? These again are the skills that your body will remember because you'll grow that muscle, that habit. If you're having a crummy day and you still have to give that presentation, now you're not just relying on your emotions and your confidence and your material, your body and you've built that muscle, right? Just like an athlete would build the muscle so that even if it's going wrong, they're going to go out there and they're going to perform their job.
Yes. Awesome. I love that. So it is really about that fine tuning, those small tweaks.
Body, breath, voice.
Body, breath, voice. Perfect. I know
And
even
if you know nothing, just do a warm up, which is again, body, breath, voice, walk around the block, dance a little bit, do some diaphragmatic breathing, hum, sing, get the voice moving, get the vocal cords warmed up, and you'll be good to go. Be a little better.
I need to try the warming up. I think I start talking sometimes and I wear out, but so that is awesome. Great tips. So I know you recently launched your own podcast as well. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that so we can get so people know where to go to get some more insight from you on your podcast.
I would love to. My podcast is the Speaking and Storytelling Podcast for Christ-led entrepreneurs and leaders. And we are on episode 7 dropped yesterday. I don't know when this is coming out. Maybe there'll be more episodes then. But it's really where I'm going to be giving lots of tips, kind of shorter podcasts, about under 20 minutes. But I also plan to have Christ-led leaders come on and tell their stories of how they're making an impact. And really, I believe that this is what the world needs right now is more Christ-led leaders telling their stories, because we can change the tide of our culture right now. This is not a time to be silent. This is a time to use our voices. And we were made for such a time as this. So if you have a story to tell that makes an impact, come find me and let me know. And if you want to improve your speaking, there's lots of episodes that are going to talk about that and storytelling.
Excellent. I know I've listened to definitely the filler word one.
I got it.
Also the memorizing one. And it was so striking. Like, how do you memorize a talk? Because it made me think of why I was good at memorizing certain things, but not other things. So some of that, where your body is and what you're doing, and it's like, oh, that's why I can do it. So some of your tips in there were really helpful, but I think that it can help you incorporate some great things into your speaking, into everything else. So it's awesome. So been very helpful. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
The best way would probably be Instagram right now. I'm Emanuela.Hall, but I also have a Facebook group where I also do live trainings, workshops, and it's Speaking and Storytelling Mastery Facebook group.
Awesome. Well, it has been fantastic chatting with you today. And thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your knowledge and helping us all get a little bit better at speaking.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Oh, well, thank you. And we will see you all next time on the Business Building Blocks podcast. Thank you for listening to the Business Building Blocks podcast, where we talk about all things people and organizational wellness, because quality people and processes are at the heart of every successful business. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to hit the subscribe button so you know when new episodes are released. You can also follow me on Instagram at christinaschmidt.ca, where I share real-life tips to help in your leadership and life journey. To get one-on-one and team support with your leadership development, book a discovery call on my website at christinaschmidt.ca. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.